But how do you see like the I guess the role that some of this preparing for a show or preparing for a role or building up to auditions, all that kind of thing, preparing your body for all that stuff plays in this industry, from your experience?
Well, if we're talking about it in light of, say, COVID-19, for example, a lot of the unions that represent performers or that represent performer adjacent people like SDC, which represents directors and choreographers, a lot of their reopening guidelines are making mention of the need to rebuild the stamina of performers before you're expecting them to do, 8 shows a week and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
These are recommendations, of course, but this is going to be the case for any show that has to reopen. So I was talking about it this morning about the Mean Girls tour, which is a show that I work on, and one of the concerns is, okay, so we pick a reopening date and we're going to look at this date. Well, how we need to be loaded in and ready to go in that city in advance because the cast is going to need time on stage to reacclimate to everything. It's been so long. And so figuring out those reopening plans for each show that was running is something that is continued for production managers. We've been talking with general management offices that we work with to try to make plans for that kind of thing. So in relation to COVID, that is something that is being discussed right now pretty extensively. In non-COVID times, we as the production's physical side, the technical elements of the show, we prep for performers from the time that we start talking about shows. So like, if I'm talking about a dance show, the first thing that I'm asking is it a sprung floor? How do I build this thing in a way that it's going to be safe and repeatable for dancers to be on it for 8 shows a week, 52 weeks a year? And that's something that's a concern, right?
Yeah.
We're always on the lookout for the safety elements that make sure that the show is repeatable for everybody. So sprung dance floors, if they're on multiple levels and things like that, how do they safely do the things that they're supposed to do at those levels? And safety is the name of the game for my job in the context of a lot of that stuff. Joe, I don't know if you have more.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's going to be really difficult for performers to come back when the time comes. I mean, our company is currently just finished a workshop for one of our resorts down in Mexico, and we had basically a 2-week workshop, 2.5-week workshop. And the performers that have, been working for us as a company for years, developing shows, they're kind of like our go-to workshop people, because that's a specific skill set to be in that environment where things are constantly changing and having to adapt and rememorize things immediately. We noticed within 2 days of being in rehearsal that it actually wasn't necessarily just the physical stamina that the performers weren't there. And these were all performers who are in good physical shape and had maintained that over the course. They mentally were out of shape. They could not remember lines. They honestly couldn't even read music as efficiently. They had to keep stopping and asking, what does this symbol mean in the music, which is stuff that they should just know. They, had a hard time picking up the choreography and then repeating it or changing it. It was a real struggle. And all of them said, they were like, oh my God, I'm just like mentally out of shape, because when you're doing it day in and day out, it stays in your body. But when you stop it for 6 months, a year, or whatever it's going to be, it's going to take time for the performers, for the musicians, if they haven't been staying up on practicing, keeping their chops up, so to speak. It's going to be a bit of a struggle at first for people to get back into it. I mean, will they? Absolutely. But I think people need to start planning for that eventuality, and it's not going to just come roaring back.
That's huge. I mean, something that I could not, and it's huge to hear that you're seeing this, and just from the aspect of like the fact that there are also things being rolled out that are keeping in mind, like you guys cannot just come back and just try it out. And I think it's kind of floating out there, but no one wants to really face it in a way of like.
I think of it all the time. Like, how many performers will come back and still fit into their costumes in the same way, because they will not have been doing 8 shows a week for, I don't know, 6 months, 8 months, a year, longer, who knows in terms of what that timeline is. You know, I was working on a kids show before everything hit that was going to be, I mean, it was a predominantly cast with children. All those kids are going to age out already. You know, like we're going to have to recast a large portion of that show just because, you know, those kids will age out. And those are unfortunate things that happen as a result of this. But those are also, you know, from our end of things, those are expenses and costs that we're working to figure out how we handle all of that too, from a business side of things.
Yeah, I mean, to demonstrate it, like on a national tour, a good rule of thumb is that if you had a layoff where you were, you know, not, you know, performing for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, sometimes you would have 4-week layoffs. And I always advocated with my team that if we had a 3-week, I would kind of let it slide by where we wouldn't do a full run of the show the day or the afternoon of the first performance back. But if we were at the 4-week mark, I was like, no, we have to do a full run of the show, technically everything as, you know, show condition, because without doubt, the cast would literally just be standing there on stage and be like, I have no idea what comes next. I don't even know what my next line is, you know, and it's just because it's not in your body for 4 weeks. And so imagine what it's going to be like a full year. They're going to be back in rehearsal as if the show's opening for the first time.